Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen Ar-Rahmanir Rahim Maliki Yawmiddin Wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu As-salatu wassalamu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in amma ba'd. Massive earthquakes, relentless hurricanes, dense landscapes, volcanic eruptions, savage droughts, and end-stage diseases. Make no mistakes about it. All kinds of weather disasters, terminal illnesses, and unforgiving destruction is the result of Allah's inevitable punishment that radiates in all directions as a recompense for wrongdoings. Throughout time, the wrath of Allah were met out to different nations to whom the world had seemed like a bright, shiny, and inspiring playground to act out in sins and transgress all boundaries. Allah confirms, Alam nuhlikil awwalin, summa nudbi'uhumul akhirin, kazalika naf'alu bil mujrimin, wailu yawma izil lil mukazzibin. Did we not destroy many a nation of the earlier times, and we shall make the later generations to follow them? Thus we deal with the sinners. Woe to the deniers of the day of resurrection. As the world becomes increasingly swayed sickeningly, trials and tribulations are bound to worsen at a soaring rate, causing unimaginable devastation and gut-wrenching scenes that even scare the living daylight out of those who are just looking at the curse from afar. If we go back in time and replenish our flowery memories, we see that the difficulties and losses caused by Mother Nature were temporary and limited to particular regions that were no strangers to natural disasters. However, today, the calamities and difficulties are all permanent and endemic to the entire world, which rises suddenly and rapidly in lightning speed and in unexpected ways. Regrettably, people have become so corrupt in their wanton display of sins that they fail to contemplate the tough realities of the dark side of their lives. They simply look at these tremendous occurrences and deadly events as a normal course of life. In fact, the very phrase natural disaster has become a very sophisticated and misleading one for people without common sense and a trace of analysis to link what's happening to them is the outcome of their own disobedience to Allah. It is thus no wonder that sins are more resonant than ever. And it is of no secret that all of these places that get hit are mainly countries that have always been a breeding ground for unbridled lifestyles. Prostitution, homosexuality, gambling, partying, and all forms of lewdness that have ever since been tolerated as a fundamental part of normal way of life. Apart from barrel storm, forest fire, cold waves, and global pandemic that calls for either total lockdown or evacuation, who knows what's coming next? Considering the fact that every time a new fatal disaster strikes, releasing as much pent-up power as several thousand atomic bombs and sending people into the gallows, the cry is always, this is our worst disaster so far. In fact, many disaster-stricken places in recent times are still inhospitable to life again, a misfortune that is inconceivable with time. This devastation sure looks like a direct hit from the pit of hell itself, and the Quran confirms again with utter certainty, ظَهَرَ الْفَسَادُ فِي الْبَرِّ وَالْبَحْرِ بِمَا كَسَبَتْ أَيْدِي النَّاسِ لِيُذِيقَهُمْ بَعْضَ الَّذِي عَمِلُوا لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْجِعُونَ. Evil and mischief have appeared on land and sea because of what the hands of men have earned, that Allah may make them taste a part of that which they have done in order that they may return by repenting to Allah. Remember, these are the very people who, when threatened with some impending doom, they ostentatiously flaunt their mass power to the world and are so fixated in their own trust and confidence. We shall ride it. We shall pass it through together. We have no doubt. Then no sooner when the unstoppable wrath descends upon them, they expose their impotency and run for cover in their most seemingly fortified structures that have been built to withstand any devastating pressure. The very ones that we see crumble like papers and flatten in the face of what is not yet real, not even close to the very most powerful moving account of Judgment Day. Allah, may He be exalted and glorified, reminds, فَإِذَا جَاءَتِ الصَّاخَةُ يوم يفر المرء من أخيه وأمه وأبيه وصاحبته وبنيه لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مِّنْهُمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ شَأْنٌ يُغْنِيهِ. But when there comes a deafening blast, that day a man will flee from his brother, and his mother, and his father, and his wife, and his children. For each one of them on that day will have enough preoccupations of his own. The reality of this dreadful reminder hasn't yet affected the modern world, all because they are too busy repeating history in the arrogance of their own conceitedness, their fake power, and in their denial of the judgment day. Allah says in His mighty book, وَلَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا إِلَىٰ أُمَمٍ مِّن قَبْلِكَ فَأَخَذْنَاهُمْ بِالْبَأْسَاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَضَرَّعُونَ. And we have already sent messengers to nations before you, O Muhammad. Then we seize them with poverty and hardships that perhaps they might humble themselves to us. So the cycle will keep repeating. Just as those rebellious nations dropped down on their knees and begged for all the mercy the world could offer when they were crushed to death, so would be the very fate of every disbelieving people of every forthcoming nation until the time of the real and the final blast. Having arrived thus far, the obvious question is raised. Is this present trial upon our Muslims in Turkey and Syria a form of wrath from Allah? The obvious answer is simply no, not at all. And this shall be our next discussion, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. Allahumma kfir lana wa li ikhwanina fi Sham wa Turkiya wa fi kulli makan وارحمهم وأسكنهم الفردوس الأعلى من الجنة مع الصديقين والشهداء والصالحين وحسن رفيقا وصلى الله تعالى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم.